The morning was cold, the sky a pale, quiet gray. The only sound on the empty streets was the rush of cars on the nearby highway. Officer Emily Carter sat in her patrol car, taking the last sip of her lukewarm coffee. She was only 28, but in her 2 years on the force she'd seen enough to make her heart feel heavy. This was supposed to be just another ordinary shift. She checked her mirrors and listened to the radio crackle softly beside her. Static, speeding cars, a lost dog. Nothing unusual. Still, a tightness gripped her chest. She glanced at her reflection in the rearview mirror. Her brown hair pulled back neatly, her eyes sharp but tired. "One day at a time, Emily," she whispered. It's what her dad, also an officer, used to say. Cancer had taken him 3 years ago, and now every shift was a reminder. As the sun began to paint the horizon with faint orange lines, she saw it, a dark blue sedan, drifting just slightly over the white line. It wasn't wild, but it was enough to catch her eye. Emily frowned, flipped her signal, and followed. She wasn't angry, just alert. It could be a sleepy driver, someone texting, or something worse. She hit the button, and red and blue lights flashed, the siren slicing through the quiet morning. The sedan immediately slowed and pulled over smoothly. Emily kept her training in mind. Assume nothing, stay careful. She parked, radioed her position, and stepped out. The cold wind bit at her face as she approached the driver's window, her hand hovering near her holster out of habit. Inside sat a man in his early 30s, dressed in a faded blue work uniform. His hands were already steady and visible on the steering wheel. As the window hummed down, he said in a calm, low voice, "Good morning, officer." His tone was respectful, but his eyes held a quiet worry. "Morning, sir," Emily replied, her voice steady. "Do you know why I stopped you today?" He shook his head. "No, ma'am, I'm not sure." "You drifted over the white line a couple of times," she explained, noticing his tired eyes. "Have you been driving for long?" "Yes, ma'am," he said. "I've been up since last night. I work nights at the warehouse, just trying to get to the hospital to see my daughter." Emily's brow furrowed. "Hospital," she repeated softly. The man nodded and pointed to the passenger seat. There, in a plastic frame, was a photo of a little girl, maybe 7, smiling brightly in a hospital gown. Her head was bald, but her eyes were full of light. "My daughter," he said quietly. "She's fighting leukemia. They said she's having a good day today, so I didn't want to miss it." That one word, leukemia, hit Emily like a stone. Her father's final days flashed in her mind. The beeping machines, the antiseptic smell, the forced smiles hiding hopelessness. She blinked, taking a quiet breath. "What's your name, sir?" she asked gently. "Marcus," he replied, handing over his license. His hands trembled slightly, not with guilt, but with pure exhaustion. She could see the dark circles under his eyes. Her radio crackled. "Unit 24, status check." "Unit 24, code 4, she replied calmly. Her eyes went back to Marcus. He looked nervous, but not because of a ticket. It was the fear that comes from too many bad stories. Too many reasons not to trust the flashing lights, but all she saw was a father, tired and desperate to see his child. She walked back to her cruiser, holding his license, and paused. She could write him a warning, make him late, and check a box on her report. Or she could see him, really see him, as a man doing everything for someone he loved. She made her choice. Walking back to his car, her heart felt lighter. Marcus looked up, expecting the worst. Instead, Emily smiled softly. "You're free to go, sir. Just drive carefully, okay? Your daughter's waiting." Marcus just stared for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Thank you, officer," he said, his voice thick with emotion. As she returned to her car, Emily felt a peace she hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't about letting someone go. It was about remembering why she wore the badge. The world outside was still gray, but inside, a small spark of humanity had returned, reminding her she could make a difference. One person, one stop, one choice at a time. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe for more. The road stretched endlessly behind him, but Marcus Reed couldn't shake the feeling that something strange had just happened. He glanced in his rearview mirror. Officer Emily Carter's patrol car was still parked on the shoulder, its lights now dimmed. She was just sitting there, watching the traffic roll by. Maybe thinking, maybe wondering, just like him. On the seat beside him lay the photo of his daughter, her bright smile frozen in a small plastic frame. Marcus touched it gently, whispering, "I'm on my way, baby girl." His hands were still trembling, not from fear anymore, but from the weight of everything. The double shifts, the sleepless nights, the bills that just kept piling up. Meanwhile, Emily sat in her cruiser staring at the name on her notepad, Marcus Reed. She said it softly to herself, the name echoing in her mind. This stop felt different. Maybe it was the way he spoke, his voice filled with honesty, no excuses. Or maybe it was that photo, the little girl who reminded her so much of the hospital room where she used to sit, holding her own father's hand as he faded away. Her radio crackled, snapping her back. Unit 24, respond to a possible disturbance on Route 9. She reached for the button, then hesitated. Her eyes drifted back to the blue sedan disappearing into the horizon. A gut feeling told her that wasn't the last time she'd see that man. Marcus drove on, his mind replaying every second of the stop. The fear that gripped him at the sound of the siren still lingered. He'd seen too many headlines, heard too many stories. But this was different. That officer, she hadn't yelled, hadn't assumed. She had looked at him, really looked at him, and saw more than just another driver. He sighed, the tension slowly easing from his shoulders. For the first time in weeks, he felt a flicker of calm. Maybe not everyone in uniform saw him as a threat. Miles behind, Emily pulled into a gas station. She got out, still thinking about the man in the blue car. "You're thinking too much again," she muttered, but she couldn't stop. She had seen that same look in his eyes before, the same exhaustion mixed with quiet strength she'd seen in her father's eyes as he fought for one more day. For years, she'd been trained to see people in categories: suspects, civilians, offenders. But Marcus had shattered that wall. He reminded her that behind every driver, there's a story. Her phone buzzed, a message from her brother. "Hey Em, visiting Dad's grave later today? Miss him?" She stared at the screen, whispering, "Yeah, Dad, I miss you too." Something inside her had shifted. Marcus finally reached the hospital parking lot. He grabbed the photo and hurried inside. The nurses greeted him with tired smiles. They knew him well. He was the man who came every single morning before his shift, no matter how exhausted he was. He walked into room 304. His daughter, Layla, waved weakly from her bed. "Daddy!" she cried. His heart melted. He dropped to his knees beside her, kissed her forehead and whispered, "I made it, baby girl, I'm here." As he tucked the blanket around her, he thought about the officer from earlier. Something in her eyes had reminded him of Layla. A quiet strength, a kindness hidden under pain. Later, as he left the hospital, he bought 2 small bouquets of flowers, one for Layla's room and one more, just because. He didn't know why, but as he stood outside he whispered, "For her too, whoever she was." At that exact moment across town, Emily pulled into the local cemetery. She brushed the leaves off her father's grave and placed her badge on the stone. "I met someone today, Dad," she whispered, "and he reminded me why you loved this job." Neither Marcus nor Emily knew it, but their lives had just crossed at the exact moment they both needed a reminder that not all stories on the road end in anger. Some begin with fear, but end in something that feels a lot like grace. Thanks for watching. If this story touched you, please give it a like and subscribe for more content that looks for the good in the world. See you next time. The afternoon sun was fading when Officer Emily Carter finished her shift. The streets glowed orange and the city moved with that slow, tired rhythm that comes at the end of the day. She pulled her cruiser into her usual spot near the small diner, but today, something felt different. Her mind wasn't on the coffee. It was still replaying that morning on the highway. The face of the man she had stopped, and the photograph of his little girl smiling bravely through pain. Sitting in the booth, hands wrapped around her cup, she watched the steam rise. His words, "She's waiting for me," had stayed in her head all day, a song that wouldn't fade. Had he made it in time? Was his daughter Layla still smiling like in the photo? She barely knew their names, but something about them wouldn't leave her heart. Emily finished her coffee and pulled out her phone. She opened a donation page she'd bookmarked months ago, one for children's cancer treatment that her late father used to support. After a brief hesitation, she typed Layla Reed into the dedication box. It wasn't much, but it was what she could give. When she hit submit, her chest felt lighter. She smiled to herself, whispering, "For her." Across town, Marcus sat in the hospital's quiet hallway. Layla was asleep, her small hand curled around a new stuffed bunny. He leaned back against the wall, exhausted but peaceful. The day had ended better than he could have hoped. The nurse had told him Layla's blood levels were improving. She might be responding to the new treatment. He closed his eyes, thinking of the officer. He hadn't expected kindness that morning, not from a world that usually looked at him with suspicion, but she had treated him like a human being, with understanding instead of judgment. It had shaken him in the best way possible. A few days passed. One morning, while sorting mail at the station, Emily found a letter with no return address, just her name written in neat black ink. Curious, she opened it. Inside was a handwritten note and a photograph. "Officer Carter," it began. "You might not remember me, but my name is Marcus Reed. You stopped me on the highway last week. I was on my way to see my daughter Layla in the hospital. I just wanted to say thank you. You didn't know it, but that morning you changed more than my day. You changed how I see people." Her breath caught. "You showed me that not everyone in uniform sees color or judgment first. You saw a father, not a suspect. Layla's doing better now. I thought you should see her smile again." Tucked inside was a photo of Layla, looking brighter, her eyes full of life. On the back, in a child's handwriting, it said, "Thank you, Officer Carter, for letting my daddy come see me," followed by a crooked little heart. Tears filled Emily's eyes, but they weren't sad tears. They were the kind that wash away heaviness, that remind you why you do what you do. Her father's words echoed in her memory. "One act of kindness can change everything, Emily." She held the letter to her chest, the station's noise fading into silence. Meanwhile, in the hospital, Marcus showed the same photo to Layla. "See, baby," he said softly. "Not everyone out there wants to hurt you. Some people still have hearts bigger than their badges." Layla smiled sleepily. "She's an angel, Daddy," she whispered. Marcus looked out at the city lights and smiled. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Maybe she is." Months later, Emily received another letter, this time from the foundation she had donated to. It said, "A family named Reed has matched your donation and started a small fund in your name, the Carter Hope Fund, to help other children like Layla." Emily read it twice, her lips trembling as she smiled through her tears. "Guess we both changed each other's lives," she whispered. From that day on, she carried Layla's photo in her badge holder, a small reminder that every choice, every moment, matters. Sometimes, an ordinary traffic stop is anything but. Sometimes, it's a quiet meeting between two souls, reminding each other that kindness, hope, and light can be found, even on the side of a lonely highway. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that celebrates the good in the world. Until next time.